How's it going, guys? My name is Mr. Hurricane, and I'm here again this year for my 2014 NFL mock draft. We have waited so long for the draft this year, 2 extra weeks due to scheduling issues at Radio City Music Hall, and so hopefully you can stomach one more mock draft as we are one day before the draft, not quite 24 hours as I record. This will be probably I'm guessing it's going to be between 20 and 30 minutes, so I'm not going to be putting gameplay here. It's going to be kind of a little podcast by myself, I guess. But I am anxiously anticipating the end of mock draft season this year with these extra 2 weeks and the various reports on Twitter about players going which way and the weird quarterback class this year where who could go in the top 10, maybe everybody's trading in bottom first round. I just want to get this mock draft over with, basically. I sat down today, put it together for the very last time this year, and here it is. 32 picks, no trades in my mock draft. I just stick with the default order. There's going to be trades, and I expect quite a few of them, especially if the quarterbacks start to fall, but I did not do any trading for the sake of my mock draft. But if you have any comments on it, leave them in the comments section. That's what mock drafts are usually for mocking anyways. So let's live up to the name, and you guys can do whatever you gotta do in the comments section with these 32 selections. But let's get underway. We have the Houston Texans on the clock for the #1 pick in the 2014 NFL Draft. Let's not waste too much time with this first selection. I'm going with Jadeveon Clowney from South Carolina. He is the consensus #1 player in this draft, and although some may question whether Khalil Mack could fit into a 3-4 better than Clowney, I think they'll find a place to put him and situations that are going to allow him to be successful. And so, without a doubt, Jadeveon Clowney's been my pick for the last few months, and I'm sticking with him here in my final mock draft. Now this is where it gets very interesting. There are multiple blue chip prospects at the very top of this draft, and who could the St. Louis Rams want with their #2 pick acquired in the RG3 trade? For the Rams, you might as well call this the year of Sam Bradford. This is a make or break year, and if they don't do a better job of protecting him, he may literally break. So a lot of mock drafts have Greg Robinson here from Auburn, a great offensive tackle prospect. There are multiple ways you can help your quarterback. And despite them going top 10 wide receiver last year, Khalil Mack's on the board. One thing Sam Bradford has never had in his career is a true #1 receiver, and I'm going with Sammy Watkins to give him that chance to revitalize his career and to get the St. Louis Rams some return on this hefty investment they put into Sam Bradford years ago when he was the #1 pick. Robinson, I could see if they wanted to go that route, but I'm going Sammy Watkins. Pair him up, you got Tavon Austin, see what you got with Austin Pettis, Chris Givens, Jared Cook. Give Bradford a chance. Now we go #3 to the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have put a lot of money into their defense this year with Gus Bradley as head coach, getting some ex-Seattle Seahawks on that defensive line, Red Bryant, Chris Clemens, and I think they're going to continue to build the defense. When you look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have 11 picks in the draft. They have a 1, a 2, a 3, 2 4s, 3 5s, and they're all tradable, no compensatory, so they have the ammo to trade up to the bottom of the first round to get their quarterback. So I think they pass here so they can get a blue chip prospect in Khalil Mack to add to this defense. At 4, we have the Cleveland Browns. Do they take the quarterback here? The first quarterback in the draft could be at #4. Yesterday, Jay Glazer shut down the idea of Johnny Manziel going to either the Browns or the Raiders in the top 10, and usually his reports, from what I've seen, they're pretty accurate, and so I'm going to let that overrule my judgment that I have for the last couple of weeks that Johnny Manziel would go #4 overall. We may see a situation where there's a lot of trading in the first round to get quarterbacks. If there's none in the top 10, it's going to be a crazy Thursday night. So I'm putting Greg Robinson here. He is arguably the top prospect on the board. Maybe you move Mitchell Schwartz, the guard, with this. You have him and Joe Thomas now. I like the idea of putting Manziel here. I wasn't sure they needed Robinson that badly, but for now I'm putting, well, I guess this is my final draft. So Greg Robinson to #4, Cleveland. Now we'll go to #5, the Oakland Raiders, which is where this draft really becomes my mock draft. This is not a pick I've really seen. I've talked with a friend, and we kind of came to an agreement on this pick that it could make sense looking at the Raiders' depth chart. I've seen a lot of tackles mocked to them in the first round, but getting Donald Penn and Austin Howard, I doubt they signed those guys to be backups, so I'm going to go with Aaron Donald, defensive tackle from Pitt. He has soared up draft boards, and I believe he is the best defensive tackle in this draft. And they went out this year, they got Lamar Woodley, Justin Tuck, a bunch of guys on defense, a lot of veterans. Now, you got to get some youth somewhere, and I think putting Aaron Donald next to those good defensive ends could be interesting, and it could work. So that shakes up a bit. We'll go to 6. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this one. You got to protect Matt Ryan better. That offensive line isn't good enough, and you're lucky enough to have Jake Matthews fall into your laps. Enjoy, Falcons fans. You're getting Jake Matthews in this mock draft. We'll go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, who traded Mike Williams a couple weeks back to the Buffalo Bills. They could use a quarterback here. There's speculation they may take Johnny Manziel if he's available. They might, but I don't really feel a strong hunch about any of these quarterbacks going somewhere this early. They signed Josh McCown from Chicago, and they have Mike Glennon, who had a solid rookie season, 19 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, but it doesn't seem the new staff is really fond of him, and they may look to trade him. Will they take a quarterback this early? I'm not sure, but I'm giving them Mike Williams' replacement in 6'5" receiver Mike Evans from Texas A&M. He has great hands, could be a solid playmaker across from Vincent Jackson, and maybe take over his place one day. And now, my favorite team at number 8, the Minnesota Vikings. New head coach Mike Zimmer, a defensive coordinator previously with the Cincinnati Bengals. Where will the Vikings go? They have, in my opinion, a very solid offensive roster, minus the most important position, quarterback. I like the O-line, like the receivers. Of course, AP's my guy, but the defense needs a lot of help. And they've tried working on it this offseason by getting Linval Joseph, Corey Wooten, Captain Munnerlyn. They've made some signings, and they have some guys that haven't really had a major chance yet. So training camp's going to be interesting, and just seeing the competition in preseason, I'm really excited to see it. So who could they go with here at 8? From what I've tried to pick up from Rick Spielman and all the reports and just talk during the offseason is that the Vikings really don't want to go quarterback at 8. If you ask me right now, I do not believe the Vikings will be the team making the selection at 8 overall. I think they're trading back. I'm not sure who's going to be there for a team to trade up. Maybe it's a team that wants an offensive lineman like Taylor Lewan, or maybe someone who's really high on Zach Martin and wants to get him. But if the Vikings stay at 8, what do? Aaron Donald's off the board, who would be the best player available, I believe. CJ Mosley is an option. The Vikings could use a linebacker, but Mosley comes with some injury concerns, and I want to see what the Vikings have with guys like Adi Cole and Michael Motti on the inside. So, I'm taking a player whom you're probably not expecting here at number 8. This is the player I want the Vikings to take. Rick Spielman, I hope you're listening. We're usually on the same page here, especially in free agency. I said I wanted Linval Joseph and Captain Munnerlyn. I thank you very much. But the work is not done in the secondary. You have Xavier Rhodes. I really like him. I like Captain Munnerlyn at the nickel spot, but you need another outside corner. And so I'm taking the number 1 guy on my board. I think he's the most complete corner in the draft. Maybe it's too early here at 8. I hope they trade back and take him. But I'm going cornerback Kyle Fuller from Virginia Tech. Like I said, I believe he is the best cornerback in this draft. So let's move on now. I spent enough time on the Minnesota Vikings, that should be expected. But number 9, the Buffalo Bills. I think this is a pick with good value. I'm putting Taylor Lewan, offensive tackle from Michigan, here with the Bills. I like the way their roster is coming together with good picks last year like Robert Woods and Kiko Alonso. I could see them if the Vikings went corner at 8. I could see them maybe going for a corner here. I'm not sure how good their depth players are. I'm not really familiar with all the other players, but I think a tackle here, and Lewan's the highest on the board, I guess. So that is who I'm going with here for the Bills. Now to the final pick of the top 10, the Detroit Lions, and this is a pick that may surprise some people, but as a Vikings fan, I don't want the Lions to take this guy. This is a guy with a lot of talent who I see usually going bottom first, early second round of mock drafts, and I think his talent, even though he plays an underappreciated position, I think he has the talent to go top 15, and I see a possible fit here with the Detroit Lions. I'm going Ryan Shazier from Ohio State. He makes it into my top 10. He is my favorite 4-3 outside linebacker, and he's a guy who's very athletic, he's fast, and look at that front four with Sue, Fairley, Willie Young, Ezekiel Ansah. You can keep this guy clean and allow him to be athletic. He can make great plays in space. Every year I want to give this team a defensive back, and I'm not this year because they have Chris Houston and Rashean Mathis, which, you know, may not be high on those guys, but they have a couple guys who they have to see how good they are. They have Darius Slay and they have Bill Bentley. So I could see them going with Gilbert or Dennard, however you pronounce it. I've heard it multiple ways this offseason. Same thing with Verrett. I call him Verrett now. But I'm going with Ryan Shazier to close out my top 10. Let's go to the Tennessee Titans at number 11. They have new defensive coordinator Ray Horton, and I'm going to give him a piece to try to mold into a dominant pass rusher, Anthony Barr. This is not a guy whom on tape I really enjoyed watching. I put on the tape of Anthony Barr against Nevada when he's playing against Joel Bitonio, their left tackle. He stoned him the whole game, and I really don't like a lot of what I see on Barr. He's a height, weight, speed guy, but guys like him get drafted high. Look at Deion Jordan last year, and even Ezekiel Ansah, who had a pretty good rookie season. I could see Anthony Barr going here at 11, and I think that Ray Horton could be the right guy to turn him into a good pass rusher. Now number 12, the New York Giants. I could go in a lot of different directions here. I almost plugged in a tackle. I mean, Eli Manning needs a little bit of help. And looking at the depth chart, I think I found the biggest hole, and there's a good player available, a top player at his position. We're going to go Eric Ebron, tight end from UNC. Hopefully Eli can cut down his interception numbers from last year with a larger target now in the passing game. Now at 13, it's the St. Louis Rams' second time on the clock. First time around, I gave them Sammy Watkins. And now who do they go with on defense? We're going to go with one of the top corners available. I'm not sure what the preference is. I don't really look at a lot of the visits and try to look at reports and see who every team is interested in, because you have multiple people spitting different information and you're not sure what to perceive as truth anyways. So I'm trying to give my best judgment, and I could see it being, you know, one of a few corners here, but I'm going to go Justin Gilbert, cornerback from Oklahoma State, who has good size, great speed, could be very good in man coverage, and I think it'd be a nice pair putting him with Janoris Jenkins. Next at 14 is the Chicago Bears, and I immediately look at their depth chart and I see a big hole at safety. This team needs some help on the back end. And safety is a weird position in this class. I don't think it's a particularly strong class at safety. And Clinton-Dix is pretty much, in most of the sites that I look at, he is the guy who is number one at safety on most boards. But he's not one of the guys that people talk about. They talk about Jimmy Ward. They talk about Calvin Pryor. So I'm not sure what teams think. Who do they think is the top safety? I'm going to go right here, Clinton-Dix to the Chicago Bears, who has pretty good range. I watched a lot of his games, watched like 5 or 6, and I wasn't overly impressed, but I don't think that he got beaten badly either. I just didn't think he was that special, but maybe he could turn into something great helping out the Chicago Bears. Almost to the halfway mark, we're at number 15 now, the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have to do a better job of taking care of Ben Roethlisberger, and I'll help them take care of that with this pick. I'm going with a guy who I think could be the target of a team trading up, Zach Martin here at 15 overall from Notre Dame. And now we're at the halfway point, the Dallas Cowboys picking 16th overall. Johnny Manziel is on the board. I don't know why people are even considering this. As the draft is taking that long to get here, we got to talk about everything that's possible. What if they take Kirby Vanderkamp here at 16 overall? I mean, I'm not even considering this. We're going to go safety here with the Dallas Cowboys. I'm going Calvin Pryor from Louisville to help out this secondary. Now in the second half of the draft, we open it up with the Baltimore Ravens sitting at number 17, and I think getting a very good prospect here at 17 on my board if he can fall this far. Darqueze Dennard from Michigan State. I don't know if it's Darqueze Dennard, Darqueze Dennard. I don't know. The cornerback from Michigan State. I've heard it multiple ways. I'll find out when Roger Goodell says his name in the first round. This would be a really good value pick, and there's a lot of ways to rank the corners this year. I happen just to think that Kyle Fuller's the best and most complete. So Dennard may be the first corner taken. I'm not sure, but this is a good value. Now we have the New York Jets, who are talked about a lot recently about possibly trading up to get somebody that they really like. But in my mock draft, he happens to fall to them, and so I'm going to run with this media report of their interest in this player and give them Odell Beckham Jr., wide receiver from LSU. Adding both him and Eric Decker to their offense would be a big upgrade for Geno Smith or whoever's going to play quarterback for them. I assume it's going to be Geno Smith, but I like the prospects of this offense if they can land Odell Beckham. Now to another team in the AFC East, the Miami Dolphins on the clock at number 19. I'm expecting them to hope for the best offensive tackle to fall to them after the whole Richie Incognito, Jonathan Martin situation. And there's a guy who I think he's sort of draft boards. I really like him here at 19, ahead of some other tackle-needy teams later in this round. Joel Bitonio from Nevada. I've talked about him a little bit in this one already. He played a very good game against Anthony Barr. He's talked about it as a guy who could play multiple positions, and the Dolphins definitely need some O-line help, and so I think Bitonio is a solid pick here. Now at number 20, we have the Arizona Cardinals, which is where, again, I kind of shake things up. I've seen this pick mocked, and I didn't really agree with it until I thought about it a little bit more, and I'm still not confident in it because it's a quarterback pick. I'll say that right now. I have the Arizona Cardinals taking Blake Bortles at number 20. Bruce Arians likes those big, strong, deep-throwing quarterbacks, and Bortles could use some time to develop. He is right for coming out because his draft stock wasn't really going to get much higher, but he still needs some time to sit, and they have Carson Palmer, so it's a good situation. And if you look at the Cardinals, they have 6 picks in this draft, and their next pick is at 52. Do you really want to sit and get your quarterback at 52? You might be able to if you covet a guy like Zach Mettenberger, but I'm going to roll a dice here and go Blake Bortles. Now on the clock at 21, it is the Green Bay Packers, and I have a pretty good prospect falling to them here to scoop up. It is C.J. Mosley from Alabama. Who knows how much longer they want to sit with A.J. Hawk. They have Brad Jones as well. Mosley's a good prospect. He can play all 3 downs. The injury concerns are kind of why I dropped him this far in the first place, but I can't let him go past Green Bay at 21. Now we go to Philadelphia at 22, and I had 2 guys here I would like to give them, and I had to choose between the 2 somehow. I talked about this in a recent live stream. When a team loses a good player like Deshaun Jackson, or last year it was Percy Harvin, what we do a lot of times is we immediately find that replacement and slot it to them in the mock draft, and I could see Brandon Cooks going here. Maybe they will. They re-signed Jeremy Maclin and Riley Cooper, and they don't have a ton else for depth. They have Jeff Maul and Damaris Johnson. I'm not high on those guys. It's a deep receiver class, so you can go in the 2nd or 3rd round and scoop up a guy like Jordan Matthews. There's a number of different guys. And so I'm going to go with a guy who I just think is good, a little bit undervalued because of his height, but I think is maybe the 2nd or 3rd best corner in this draft, and that is Jason Verrett from TCU. My favorite corner on their roster is Brandon Boykin. I'm not high on the other players like Bradley Fletcher, Kerry Williams as much, so I'm going to go Jason Verrett to strengthen the secondary. Next up, it's 23. The Kansas City Chiefs are on the clock, and I have them taking a wide receiver. It is Marquise Lee from USC. And I think I've just seen a lot of reports linking Lee to Kansas City, and I wanted to give him someone who could fit into their offense with Alex Smith at quarterback and someone who could play on the outside, so I think Lee fits the bill. Now I'll move on to the Cincinnati Bengals at 24, and I have another receiver coming off the board. Now, they have A.J. Green, of course, Mohamed Sanu, Marvin Jones. I want to give them a dynamic speed threat. They lost Andrew Hawkins. He's now in Cleveland. So I'm going to give them Brandon Cooks. Very good value falling this far. I could easily see him going a lot higher if a team really likes him. And I will love using this team on Madden this year. If it's going to be A.J. Green, Gio Bernard, and then Brandon Cooks as well, it could be a lot of fun. Now to the San Diego Chargers sitting at 25. They surprised me last year. Great season from Phillip Rivers. He was a lot of fun to watch last year. I really enjoyed watching San Diego. They scooped up Keenan Allen in the 3rd round. Major steal that late in the draft. Now in the 1st round, I want to help him out on defense. I have them taking a guy who could be an extremely dominant player at his position, but there are some injury concerns with his knee. We're going to go nose tackle Louis Nix III from Notre Dame. Nix is very big, powerful, and dominant, and even with the injury concerns, I think he should go mid to late 1st round. He's worth rolling the dice on. I think he could be a very good player as long as he stays healthy. Now 26 is the 2nd time we're talking about the Cleveland Browns. They passed on a quarterback at 4. Do they take one here at 26? I think they do. I have them taking Johnny Manziel here at number 26 overall. If trades happen the way I think they're going to go down. I see Johnny going a lot earlier to a team that trades up to get him. If you sit here at 26, you may end up with Teddy Bridgewater or Derek Carr, and I'm really surprised the way Teddy is just taking a beating throughout this draft process, and just a lot from the media anyway. I liked watching Teddy's tape. It wasn't bad. I think he has a good arm, great accuracy, and the best footwork in the class, but I have the Browns taking Johnny Manziel, rolling the dice on a guy who could be an incredible playmaker at the NFL level. Definitely needs a lot of coaching to become an NFL quarterback, to sit in the pocket, but he can make all the throws, and he's a competitor. He will fight for you when the game is on the line. I like Johnny Manziel a lot. I hope that he can succeed in the NFL. There you go, 26 to the Browns. Now 27, it is the New Orleans Saints sitting on the clock, and I have them taking the first center off the board, someone who will be at the draft, Marcus Martin. Now, I was surprised when they said that he was going into the draft, but I have to kind of remember the media hypes players, and looking at mock drafts is not necessarily the best indication of knowing who the best players are in the draft. Marcus Martin's going because probably the NFL has information from scouts or GMs or someone in front offices at teams telling them who should be at the draft, who deserves to be there at the podium when they get announced in the first or second round, usually first round. I think 30 guys are going this year. But I have Marcus Martin going to the New Orleans Saints. They could use a center. Martin is arguably one of the best in this class, and it fits a big need. Now it is the Carolina Panthers who are in the most unfortunate spot in the entire draft because of the positions they need help at. Corner, tackle, wide receiver. The top three at each position are probably going to be gone by the time the Panthers are on the clock. They are in a bad spot, and they've tried to patchwork the offense a little bit. They've signed Jericho Cotchery, Jason Avant, talking about moving Byron Bell to left tackle, which scares the hell out of me, and I'm a Vikings fan. And their GM really seems fixated on games being won in the trenches. So I see an offensive lineman here because it's such a big need. It may trump a better pass rusher at a different position, but I'm going to go Morgan Moses to the Carolina Panthers. It could be one of many different tackles. Batonio doesn't fall this far in mine. Cyrus Kouandjio has the injury concerns, and some people think he's overrated, so I'm not sure really a lot about tackles. Luckily, my favorite team has a couple ones that I'm happy with, so I don't have to watch a lot of tackles this year. So I have Morgan Moses going here to Carolina. Sorry, Panthers fans. Now to number 29, it is the New England Patriots, who could be a prime candidate to trade down. I didn't see a player here who I was thrilled to give him at 29. I think they could use a defensive tackle. I thought about maybe a nose of some sort to maybe replace Vince Wilfork, but I'm going to go with the guy who I think could be pretty good. A lot of people think he's a boom or bust candidate. I'm going to go Rashid Hegman from Minnesota, defensive tackle. He's an athletic guy who is very disruptive, but he's not always disruptive. His tape is kind of inconsistent, so maybe he just needs some good coaching to get the best out of him week in and week out. So Hegman at 29, let's go to 30. I don't think the 49ers are picking here. This is the team I believe is most likely in the NFL to trade up. The 49ers want nothing to do with 30. Come on. They're picking this far down in the first round. They have a million picks this year. And I applied this logic to the Vikings last year. I said the Vikings would trade up because they had too many picks. And I believe the same is true for the Niners. Even more true, their roster is better than the Vikings. They have a first, 2 seconds, 3 thirds. Now, one of those thirds is a compensatory, so they could package up something nice to get into the top 10. You have 2 twos, one is at 56, one at 61. You got the pick at 77 and 94 in the third. So I see them trading up big to get somebody, but if for some reason they stand pat and sit at 30 and save those picks and sit on them, I'm going Stephon Tuitt because they could use some youth on their defensive line, and Tuitt is a good value this late in the first round. Almost done. 31. The losers of the Super Bowl. It is the Denver Broncos. Now, they made a lot of moves in this offseason to strengthen their defense. DeMarcus Ware, TJ Ward, Aqib Talib. They're trying to fill a lot of holes, and I could see them maybe going safety if they're not happy with Raheem Moore. Deion Buchanan's available. There's Jimmy Ward. But I'm going to go to the offensive side of the ball to a player who I think is a safe pick, would help out their offensive line. We're going to go Xavier Su'a-Filo, hope I'm saying that correctly, from UCLA to help protect Peyton Manning and open up running lanes for Monty Ball. Finally, to close mock draft season for me this year, it is the Seattle Seahawks on the clock, the defending Super Bowl champions. Love the way they've been drafting and assembling this team. What do they do here in the first round? I have them taking a player I actually don't believe I've seen in the first round yet. But it does fill a need. He's one of the top players at his position. Xavier Su'a-Filo just came off the board, so I'm going to go with the next guard in line. You can maybe interchange these guys. We're going to go David Yankee from Stanford, a guard to close out Mr. Hurricane's 2014 first-round NFL mock draft. I debated that one between Yankee, D. Ford, and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, but I ended up going Yankee. So that is my mock draft, guys, and as the name says, go mock it in the comment section if that's what you need to do. The best players, at least on NFL.com's board, not making it into my first round were Jerry Rice Cake. Why is he even on this? Anyway, for actual players, it is Bradley Roby, a very athletic corner, Teddy Bridgewater, Carlos Hyde, Derek Carr, Kelvin Benjamin, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dante Moncrief, and Trey Mason. Jeremiah Attachu, too. I really like him from Georgia Tech. I like him in the second round to a team like the Atlanta Falcons. But that is it for this year, guys. My 2014 NFL mock draft. A few surprises in there. The Fuller pick, maybe the Donald pick. Definitely the Shazier pick. I haven't seen that one at all. But, yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section. This is my third year making a mock draft, so trying to get better as a talent evaluator and guesser of the general managers in the NFL. Just love watching football and following all this stuff, so trying to get more involved as the years go on. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed. First round is tomorrow, second and third on Friday, 4 through 7 on Saturday. Can't wait to watch all coverage. Yes, even the 7th round, I gotta see. We've had 2 extra weeks this year. I know more names this year than maybe any other draft I've watched. So I will be glued to the TV and Twitter and the computer and my spreadsheets I'll be printing out. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching. Leave your feedback below in the comment section. And we'll get this mock draft business out of the way. Draft is almost here. Have a great day, guys. I'll see you next time.